there are more and more people that are
True.
waking up and that don't have someone like you and me to talk to about. I mean, you can't tell me that a lot of other people our age at least have the similar thoughts that we do.
100%.
But they also aren't around people who openly talk about this stuff. So like if you're surrounding yourself with all modern age kids, all focused on Instagram, TikTok, and likes and social status, and that's it. Well, I mean, that's all they're going to talk about. And, and that's where birds of a feather flock together. You do have to surround yourself with people that are going to challenge you, hold you accountable, and just break positive. Like this is literally therapeutic, just having these open discussions and everything. And I think more and more we're seeing people start to crave that in our generation.
True.
And I think that's why, like, the Joe Rogan, like these podcasts are getting big because people don't get to have these conversations day to day, like what used to be all you would do.
Exactly.
And there's so much BS shoved down everyone's throat everywhere, every day that there's like no escape from it.
And to have something authentic is just refreshing.
It's very refreshing.
Right.
Absolutely.
So how have you been, bro?
Been pretty good. How about you?
Doing good, man.
Good.
You look clean. Look sharp.
You too.
Is that, I know the little like squiggle is a specific Italian thing, right?
It's the Gorny. Yeah.
Gorny, that's right.
Correct. It's an Italian good luck charm.
That's right. Is the charm behind it anything in particular?
Saint Michael, the Archangel, on the medallion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
It's my favorite of the angels.
Were you raised with like...
I was raised Catholic. I made all my sacraments up to confirmation. Obviously haven't done matrimony yet. Probably, we were talking about that earlier today, actually. Like, will you dating an Italian woman now, or have you considered that, like, possibly marrying into the Catholic Church?
Right.
I mean, and my take on it is, even if I don't wholeheartedly agree with everything the Catholic Church is doing and involved in today, the beauty and the tradition and the cultural, the cultural tradition, if you will, is the more attractive part to me about it. And I ultimately think I will, and I'll probably raise my kids Catholic because, again, regardless, I feel like it really builds a great foreground for good morals and good problem solving. And when you start asking the right questions and figuring out more, and it ends up leading you to figure out a lot about the world.
Right. And we talked about that earlier, how Christianity is out of all the religions, it has one of the most truth-seeking, like, foundational underpinnings that guides Christians in their day-to-day truth-seeking whenever they live their lives.
For sure.
And that truth-seeking aspect of it is what causes you to question those fundamental underpinnings, which in the end kind of got us to where we are today. You trying to take these off real quick?
Yeah.
That
was cool. Shout out Squeak on the shades.
Nice.
The truth-seeking is good because, I mean, that's a day-to-day constant thing, is finding out what to believe, what's the case, what's not, if you're getting lied to, or, if something's not being made abundantly, honestly, transparent to you, you want to know.
Right. Not being a sheep.
However, it also creates a sense of self-righteousness for a lot of people. And that's when you see a lot of Christian, like Bible belting, like, throwing proverbs at you and, that's their truth, and you can't tell them anything, and they're not even seeking truth anymore. They're just seeking their truth.
Right.
And that's when it becomes a problem, because then you start blinding the lines of what's best for people as we evolve and we figure more things out. What of the old things need to be redacted furthermore.
Yeah. Those hypocritical underpinnings that need to be redacted we're only really discovering those within the past couple hundred years. So it's no wonder we're still in that transition period.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it's not,
And to raise your kids Christian, specifically Catholic, I think at least will give them a solid foundation, a structural foundation to base their ethical values in a world where, because most people aren't religious, they don't have that structure, which means they don't have that objective ethical system in place to give them meaning in their life. Which we talk about this all the time, but we talked about in the podcast, I think 2 podcasts ago, which is why suicide and depression is so rampant nowadays, because people don't have that structure in place to give them
tribe,
meaning.
Yeah.
Right. And man, you talk about me having like an Italian girlfriend. That was one of the biggest conversations her and I had to have, which was me coming from a place of nearly no culture, especially being an American, but being an American with 2 separate, distinct cultural predispositions in both black and white. And again, because America's only a couple hundred years old, those cultural traditions were usually based off of the homeland from which they stemmed. And for our enslaved African Americans, they had to base their culture off of who? Their white owners, essentially. And you can get into like the redneck culture and all this other stuff with the black community without going there, right?
No, I literally just saw a video. Can't think of the guy's name.
Thomas.
Yes,
Yeah.
And he was talking about the foundation of modern African American culture and how it's the same as literally the poverty of the white Southerners as well at that time. And
It was the redneck culture.
yeah, essentially. So
Right. And that redneck culture doesn't necessarily come from the white Southerners. It came
it's
from
the poverty.
Well, exactly. But what I'm saying is it isn't like an American thing. It was taken from like
Scotland, I
and
believe,
like,
yeah.
like Northern England.
Mhm.
Like, and so when those traditions, those poor white traditions, we'll call them, were brought over to America, and then the class of people, the slaves, once they were free, had to adopt a culture, and they were through systemic racism, and you can say a bunch of stuff that's truly valid, pigeonholed them into a corner to where now what are they going to adopt?
I mean, yeah.
Those very poverty-stricken, let's just say, ease of access traditions that were the only traditions they had access to because they weren't liberated slaves who adopted rich white culture.
Right.
They adopted the only culture they knew, which was that poor redneck culture, right?
Exactly.
And so from the white culture, I don't have let's just say I have a predominantly Scottish-Irish background, 25% Scottish-Irish background from my mom's side.
I mean, it's just going to be another regurgitated American, whatever she
Legit.
was. It's all based on what they had before.
Right, but what they had before, for the most part, was similar to what you experienced or what my girlfriend experiences, which is that coming from a place of true substantiated culture that has generational implications.
Absolutely.
Like her knowing her grandparents and the village in Sicily they were from is starkly different than me not even being able to meet my grandparents.
Exactly.
And then understanding the cultural foundation from which that stems, like me and her had to come to a conclusion that you and I talked about way back in the day, where sometimes it's just easier to have a significant other who shares the same foundational moral values as you do, which usually in that cultural subsect is also a religious foundation,
Sure.
like Catholicism. But then you go like to my boy Cody, who we had a podcast last week, and Cody's mom was raised Buddhist and his dad was raised Catholic. And when they got together, his mom had to adopt Catholicism after already having been raised as a Buddhist.
Which is crazy.
Right.
It's a wild, yeah.
So they shared somewhat of a similar cultural predisposition, but not the same religious predisposition.
Sure.
So yeah, for you being able to raise your kids or even wanting to raise your kids with that cultural predisposition, not necessarily under the guise of being an ardent Catholic, but more so under the guise of maintaining generational tradition, that makes sense.
More so, I mean, even still though, I like the basic, like at the root of Catholicism is great intention and good moral grounds
Right.
to base your life upon.
Like most in all religions.
And even as a 10-year, 12-year-old, just playing with my thumbs in mass, waiting for it to get out. Is it almost done? Waiting, counting down how many times I got to kneel till it's over.
Literally.
To like actually, going out into the world and being able to formulate my own opinions on things that I was, and hammered on to think one way about, and then taking what I know from that, going to a public school, not a Catholic school,
Right.
and getting mixed in with all different types of walks of life. It really gave me I feel like a well-rounded experience, and I got to meet a lot of different people from different situations with having that strict Catholic like foreground,
Right,
or
legit.
background, excuse me.
Right, legit. When did you do your confirmation? What age?
16,
Right, okay. Is it usually 16?
right around 15, 16 typically.
Because I know it's anywhere from age, I think, like technically like
I mean,
9
you could
to
technically
19.
get, if you like are, new to Catholic Church and you're an adult, I mean, obviously people get confirmed who are
right.
30s. There's
Right.
no limit.
If you were
If you're born
into it,
Catholic, baptized, as a baby, you make your first communion when you're like second, third grade.
Okay.
First confession, first communion. Then you take a break on sacraments till about 15 or 16. You make your confirmation, which is
Gotcha.
like confirming now you've, either went to Catholic school or, for my case, Sunday school, and like you had to do a retreat, and just saying, confirming you're Catholic and your Catholicism, your faith and everything.
right. It's nearly the Catholic equivalent of like a bar mitzvah.
Exactly.
Right. The coming to terms of
Coming
not only a man,
of
but,
God.
I was going to say, but a man of God,
Mhm.
literally. Kind of
Abs-
the stuff we talked about, right?
Exactly.
Like legit, it's not only being an adult and being a man, but it's about understanding the humility and the responsibility that comes with being an adult and a man, which is understanding you're not a god and you're not perfect and you're not immortal. And when you go out into the real world against nature, you better maintain a level of humility. Otherwise, your generation won't last.
Correct.
Your legacy won't last.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that ties full back into why I think there is the necessity for there to be some structure in your life.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be an ardent, already founded religious foundation. What's funny is Nietzsche back in the day, when he created Also Sprach Zarathustra, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, which was the book in which he said God is dead and we have killed him.
Right.
The idea of that, and when he made that claim, it was under the assumption that God's dead because science has pretty much articulated the hypocritical underpinnings of not only Christianity, but all of religion fundamentally.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, humans now have to transcend into essentially into gods themselves, and will have to create their own moral values because they're not
they're not believing in the afterlife anymore. Like no one, I heard someone talk about this recently too on some big thing, but yeah, or it was Joe Rogan had the guru, that old guru on his podcast.
Yeah, sad guru, but
yeah.
I'm the mad guru.
No, yeah, for sure. No, I mean, that guy's just a great marketing. I mean, that guy makes a lot of money, I'm sure. But either way, I mean, like that was the thing that kept everybody in check in the ancient days. That's why the Catholic Church was able to rule the world like they were, because there's a fear of internal suffering for not abiding by the rules.
The entire foundation of the Old Testament is a fear of God.
Correct. Yeah, God-fearing Christians. Yes.
Exactly. Keep going.
Catholics. And so now that, it's like, I ain't scared. Like it's like, the parent, and there's no authority anymore. So like I can do whatever in this society of no real, natural consequences other than the obvious. Like, you don't have to worry about a mammoth stepping on you out in the woods anymore.
Right.
You have to, no one's going to be born with the self-discipline and control to handle the temptations and everything that comes with this life and society that we have today.
Especially in the 21st century.
Especially now more than ever.
With all this
but
let alone back then, right.
But yeah, now more than ever. And so if the majority of the population doesn't see a reason to have those moral structures or foundations, you start getting into pretty scary water as to where people's minds go and the masses. And that's why I think we see a lot of these things we see today.
Rampant depression, suicide, and everything of the likes.
Just in problems with, people just having problems with each other. I mean,
right.
And
you can talk about the severe the severe bipartisanship of political discourse.
Exactly.
Of how toxic and legit on how toxic and extreme sided it's become.
They try to make everything black or
and
white, one
right.
or two. Right?
But it's nuanced.
Yeah.
Shit's nuanced, bro.
Exactly.
Oh man, yeah. You talking about there being no middle ground.
There is middle ground, but they don't want you to believe that we can agree to disagree anymore
because
it doesn't make money.
That's not what sells.
Exactly.
Bruh.
They want you one way or the other, and that's just simply not what we are.
There's a reason why, though, mine and Ollie's debate has the heated, friendly debate has one of the most viewed videos.
Because it's conflict. It's immediate conflict. From the click, you're getting conflict, which it's a great video. It's a great discussion. Absolutely. But you didn't even really sugarcoat that or anything. I mean, it is what it was. But that's conflict always sells.
I just wish this sold, man.
I think it really will one day, because there are more and more people that are waking up and that don't have someone like you and me to talk to about. You can't tell me that a lot of other people our age at least have the similar thoughts that we
100%.
do. But they also aren't around people who openly talk about this stuff. So if you're surrounding yourself with all modern age kids, all focused on Instagram, TikTok, and likes and social status, and that's it. Well, I mean, that's all they're going to talk about. And, and that's where birds of a feather flock together. You do have to surround yourself with people that are going to challenge you, hold you accountable, and just break positive. Like this is literally therapeutic, just having these open discussions and everything. And I think more and more we're seeing people start to crave that in our generation.
True.
And I think that's why, like, you know, the Joe Rogan, like these podcasts are getting big because people don't get to have these conversations day to day, like what used to be all you would do.
Exactly.
And there's so much BS shoved down everyone's throat everywhere, every day, that there's like no escape from it.
And to have something authentic is just refreshing.
It's very refreshing. Right. Absolutely. So maybe not tomorrow. We won't go viral right away, but I think there will be a time in the near future where this type of content supersedes all the phony, because how many more people can do the same thing on TikTok and get I mean, how long can it really go? In my opinion, I mean, until people are going to crave, there's either going to be a great awakening or there's going to be mass chaos. You know what I mean? One of the
I tend to err on the side of the former.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. And again, we don't do this for the virality of it. We don't do it for the views. We do it because of the therapeutic aspect of it, like you're talking about. Because the reason why it's the post-workout podcast is because it's an extension of what we talk about during the workout.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Jesse even made note of that in mine. His and Tyler's podcast is how this acts as nearly a journaling platform for him to keep himself accountable whenever he's feeling low, and he'll just go back and rewatch himself preaching some savage shit.
I've done that too, because you know, it's when you get on here and you do have a conversation like this, and even if I don't go back to the video, I will recollect on a conversation I've had with you. I'm like, Donnici, come on, man, like you know you're smarter than this, you know you're better than this. Don't choose to look the other way just because it's convenient right now. Be accountable, hold yourself accountable, and that's something I struggle with still.
We all do,
but I feel like it's something I've gotten a lot better with. And
is that safe to say? Would it surprise you if every human struggles with that?
I mean, no, I know everyone does, but I also don't think everyone acknowledges that they struggle with it. I think they don't want to acknowledge that they have a problem with it.
So when I was talking about the willfully being complacent, that's exactly what it is. Once you acknowledge it, or when you have someone in your life that helps you acknowledge it,
out,
that's the opening of Pandora's box.
And if you choose to shut it and not look, then you are willfully being ignorant.
And you can't unclose the box or unbite from that fruit.
No, you could try to shove it in the closet. You could try to do whatever you want, but it's going to come out, and it's going to, whatever it takes, it's only going to get uglier the more and more.
The longer you postpone it.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.